Welcome, deep divers. Okay, picture this. Late August, Flushing Meadows, New York City. You can almost feel it, right? That electric hum under the lights at Arthur Ashe Stadium, the roar of the crowd.
Oh yeah, it's an incredible atmosphere. Usually it's all about the serves, the epic rallies, the sheer athleticism on display.
Exactly. But this year, 2025, something else kind of cut through that usual buzz. It wasn't just about the aces and volleys this time.
No, we're diving into a specific moment that really shook the U.S. Open, a moment that shifted the focus completely.
Right. This wasn't about a match point. It was a confrontation, a post-match exchange that just exploded. It sparked this huge debate.
And it really dug up all these layers of meaning, didn't it? Stuff way beyond the tennis court itself.
Absolutely. So our mission today isn't just to rehash some courtside drama. We want to peel back the layers, look at the immense pressure these athletes are under.
Yeah, and the cultural nuances, too, how they shape perception, how a few words, maybe said in the heat of the moment, can just ripple outwards.
We're going to unpack this whole thing, the people involved, the history that gives these words their weight. So let's get into it.
Okay, setting the scene. It's Wednesday at the Open, busy day. You've got Jelena Ostapenko, the Latvian player, 2017 French Open champ, big hitter, seeded favorite.
Known for that aggressive baseline game, definitely. And she's up against Taylor Townsend, the American player from Chicago.
Right, Townsend. Known for her grit, she's got that 2024 Wimbledon doubles title under her belt. A really crafty player.
And Townsend, well, she played brilliantly. Just an impressive straight sets win, 6-3, 6-4. She was mixing it up, slices, coming to the net, power when needed.
It was a really commanding performance. Looked like a straightforward, well-earned victory.
It should have been just that. But then came the handshake, the usual moment of sportsmanship.
Yeah, except it.
Yeah.
It wasn't usual this time. It turned confrontational. Ostapenko clearly frustrated by the loss.
Started muttering something, accusations about unsportsmanlike conduct during the match.
That's what was reported. And while the exact trigger, what precisely set it off, is a bit unclear. Maybe a net cord, maybe something else.
The words themselves were pretty clear. No education and no class. You could hear them. And they just hung there.
Oof. Yeah, and the reaction was immediate. Just instant backlash from fans, from people watching. Those are loaded words.
Incredibly loaded. Which brings us to the fallout. Townsend's response, it was something else.
It really was. In her press conference later, she tackled it head on. Showed amazing composure, really.
She said she didn't take it as inherently racist, right? More like competitive frustration spilling over.
That's how she framed it initially, yeah.
Yeah.
Focusing on the heat of the moment. But she didn't stop there.
No, she also spoke about her identity, her strength.
Exactly. She said, I'm very strong. I'm very proud as a Black woman being out here representing myself and representing us and our culture. Powerful stuff.
It really is. But she also acknowledged something important, didn't she? About how those specific words, no class, no education, connect to harmful stereotypes.
Mm-hmm. She recognized that societal narrative, that harmful link people sometimes make between race and those qualities. An idea that has absolutely no place, but, well, it persists.
So even while she was downplaying the personal sting, she was aware of the bigger, uglier context those words tap into.
Precisely. She was navigating a really complex situation with remarkable grace, I think, asserting her pride while acknowledging the historical weight.
Meanwhile, Ostapenko wasn't staying quiet. She hit Instagram pretty quickly, right? Later that same day.
Yeah, she posted, denying any racist intent very strongly. Said something like, I was never racist in my life and I respect all nations.
And she tried to frame it purely as frustration over perceived unsportsmanlike conduct during the match.
Right. She even posted again later, urging people to move on. But, social media.
Once it starts, it's hard to stop. The racism storm, as people were calling it, was already in full swing.
And then things took another turn the next day, Thursday. Naomi Osaka wins her match pretty comfortably, actually, 6-3, 6-2.
And inevitably, she gets asked about the Ostapenko-Townsend incident in her press conference.
And Osaka, well, she's known for being thoughtful, for speaking out on social issues. She didn't hold back.
What'd she say? I remember it being quite direct.
Very direct. She called Ostapenko's remarks terrible. Said it was one of the worst things you can say to a Black tennis player in a majority white sport. Just laid it out there.
Wow. That's unambiguous. What makes her perspective so particularly powerful here?
Well, several things. First, she knows Taylor Townsend personally. She said, I know Taylor, and I know how hard she's worked, and I know how smart she is, so she's the furthest thing from uneducated.
So defending her friend and colleague's character directly.
Yes. But then she added that crucial layer of historical context. She said something like, I don't know if Ostapenko knows the history of it in America, but I know she's never going to say that ever again in her life.
Pointing out that those phrases, no education, no class, have a specific ugly history of being used against Black people in the U.S. Weaponized language.
Exactly. And Osaka, with her own background, born in Japan, Haitian father, Japanese mother, raised in the U.S., she understands these intersections of race, culture, and history implicitly.
Yeah.
She lives it.
Her voice just carries enormous weight on issues like this. She's navigated that complexity her whole career.
Absolutely. And she wasn't the only player speaking out. Ben Shelton, the American men's player, 6th seed.
Townsend's mixed doubles partner too, right?
That's right. He had some pretty sharp words. Called the comments shocking and not the smartest thing to say to an American in New York City.
Kind of highlighting the local angle too. Don't mess with a New Yorker or an American player at the U.S. Open, maybe.
Sort of, yeah. It kind of speaks for itself, right? Crazy. Crazy statement. Just disbelief, really.
And Coco Gauff, another prominent young American voice.
Coco weighed in, too. She's always been vocal about racial justice. She called the words misguided, especially towards Townsend, who she called a great friend and a role model.
So, strong condemnation from fellow American players.
Definitely. Though you also had Aryna Sabalenka offering a slightly different take, more nuanced.
The Belarusian player. What was her view?
She expressed some support for Ostapenko, mentioning the heat of the moment, the intense pressure, but still acknowledging the situation.
So a range of reactions, which kind of reflects the global nature of the tour, doesn't it? Different backgrounds, different perspectives.
It really does.
Hmm.
But underlying it all, even with the nuances, there seemed to be this general agreement on the need for respect.
To really understand why those reactions varied and why the words hit differently, we probably need to look a bit closer at the players themselves, their journeys. Let's start with Ostapenko.
Okay. Jelena Ostapenko, born in Riga, Latvia, 1997. We know her for that explosive game. Won the French Open back in 2017. Fiery competitor.
Yeah, the nickname AO for her aggressive style fits, and she's known for occasional on-court outbursts, right? Passionate, maybe sometimes lets emotion get the better of her.
That seems fair. And, her background, Eastern European, Latvian communication styles can be different. Sometimes more direct, less filtered in competitive moments, perhaps.
That's an interesting point. What might seem like raw honesty or just bluntness there could land very differently in, say, an American context where post-match diplomacy is often expected.
It's possible that cultural difference in communication played a part in how things were said, and definitely how they were received. It adds another layer.
Okay, and Taylor Townsend, Chicago native, born 1996. Her story is pretty remarkable.
It really is. Former junior world #1, huge talent.
Yeah.
But then she faced that awful body shaming early in her pro career.
Which must have been incredibly difficult, but she didn't let it derail her.
Not at all. She persevered, adapted her game, became a fantastic doubles player, winning Wimbledon in 2024, and rebuilt her singles career, too.
As a Black woman in a sport that hasn't always been welcoming, she's such a symbol of resilience, building on the legacy of people like Althea Gibson, Arthur Ashe.
Absolutely. She embodies that progress and the continued fight for representation.
And then Naomi Osaka again. Born 1997, Japan, raised in the U.S., 4 Grand Slams, global icon status.
And her impact goes way beyond tennis.
Okay.
Her advocacy for mental health, for social justice, she uses her platform.
Her mixed heritage, Haitian and Japanese, also gives her this unique perspective on identity and culture. It makes her voice on these issues incredibly resonant.
Yeah. So you have these 3 individuals, their distinct backgrounds, their pressures, all converging in this one moment at the U.S. Open. It's not just about tennis.
Not at all. And this incident, it didn't happen in isolation, did it? Tennis has its own complex history with race.
Oh, definitely. For decades, it was overwhelmingly white, very elite. Players of color faced huge barriers. You mentioned Althea Gibson, Arthur Ashe, true pioneers who fought segregation.
They used their platform for civil rights, paved the way.
And even with the incredible success of Serena and Venus Williams, who completely changed the game, they still faced racist remarks, intense scrutiny about their bodies, their attitudes.
I remember the Indian Wells controversy in 2001, and Serena's dispute with the umpire at the 2018 U.S. Open final.
Exactly. These things remind us that progress isn't always a straight line. The past echoes in the present.
Which is why words like uneducated or no class carry such weight. They tap right into those historical stereotypes used against black athletes, especially black women.
Right. This idea that they constantly have to prove themselves, not just physically but intellectually, in these predominantly white spaces, it's an unfair burden.
And it completely ignores reality. Look at Taylor Townsend juggling a top-level tennis career, motherhood, business ventures. She shatters that stereotype completely.
Utterly. The words, intended or not, land on that sensitive historical ground.
Let's talk about the pressure cooker environment of pro tennis, too. It seems uniquely intense.
It really is. Think about it, you're out there alone, no teammates to back you up, to share the load, just you, your opponent, and millions watching globally.
That isolation must be immense. It feels like a recipe for emotional boiling points sometimes.
It can be. And that individual nature, it perhaps makes dealing with mental health struggles different too. You don't have that built-in team support structure.
We saw Naomi Osaka herself step away, citing mental health, back in 2021 at the French Open. That was a huge moment, sparking a much-needed conversation.
A vital conversation. And while it doesn't excuse Ostapenko's words, you can see how the pressure of losing a big match at a major, especially for a former champion, could contribute to an emotional outburst. The stakes are incredibly high.
The U.S. Open itself seems to have a history of these wild moments, doesn't it?
Oh, for sure. John McEnroe's "You Cannot Be Serious" is legendary. Jimmy Connors was famous for his on-court antics. More recently, Nick Kyrgios brings the drama.
They're memorable moments, often entertaining. They remind us these players are human, not machines.
True. But this incident felt different because it wasn't just about competitive fire or arguing a line call. It intersected with these really sensitive cultural and historical issues. That makes it more complex than just another outburst.
And then, of course, there's the digital dimension. Social media instantly amplifies everything.
Instantly. X, formerly Twitter, just erupted.
Yeah.
You had floods of support for Townsend, but also people defending Ostapenko, saying it was just frustration.
It becomes this massive online debate, doesn't it? People bringing in their own perspectives, biases.
Exactly. It turned into discussions about cultural differences in communication, about racism in Europe versus the U.S. Some Reddit threads were really dissecting interpretations based on geography.
Like that comment about a U.S. lens when Europe has a huge problem with casual racism.
Oh, yeah.
It highlights how these things are perceived differently depending on local context and history.
Yeah. Different histories of race relations, immigration. They shape how these things are talked about or not talked about sometimes. What seems subtle in one place can be glaring in another.
But the online sphere, for better or worse, it turned this into a kind of global teachable moment, prompting reflection.
Hopefully prompting reflection, yeah. Among the noise, there were calls for more understanding.
So where does this leave the sport? What are the potential impacts moving forward?
Well, you have to wonder if the WTA might look at its code of conduct again. Maybe consider things like sensitivity training, especially with such a global tour.
Promoting greater cultural awareness seems key, doesn't it, in a sport that brings together people from literally everywhere.
Absolutely essential. And for us, the fans, maybe it's a reminder to pause before jumping into the online fray, to try and understand the complexities rather than just adding to the noise or hate.
To engage thoughtfully, it's a good principle.
So the tournament moved on. Osaka kept playing well. Townsend continued in the doubles. Ostapenko, you assume, did some reflecting.
Life goes on, the U.S. Open finishes. But this moment, it leaves a mark, doesn't it? It challenges the tennis world and maybe all of us to think about inclusivity, about the power of words.
Definitely. It's a really poignant reminder that tennis, like any big global sport, is about so much more than just the score. It's about people, their stories, their struggles, their growth.
We saw it all play out here, didn't we? Ostapenko's frustration, Townsend's incredible poise and strength, Osaka's wisdom and clarity. It was like a miniature drama of life's complexities.
Played out on one of the world's biggest stages. Yeah.
So here's something to think about. In our world, where communication is global, instant, often unfiltered, how do we make sure our words, especially when emotions are running high, actually build understanding? How do we avoid causing division, whether it's on a tennis court or just in our everyday lives?
That's the big question, isn't it? Something for all of us to consider long after the match point is over.